Sorry, it looks like my computer only let me record for so long, so I had to break it into two parts. I'll pick up where I left off on phpsecurity.readthedocs.io. So, starting under Examples of XML External Entity Injection. We previously met an example of information disclosure by noting that a custom entity in XML could reference an external file. This would expand the custom and harmless entity with the file contents. Since all such requests are done locally, it allows for disclosing the contents of all the files that the application has read access to. So, this would allow attackers to examine files that are not publicly available should the expanded entity be included in the output of the application. The file contents will be limited, however. Those will be limited to XML files or anything that could be parsed by an XML parser without generating errors. There is a workaround, though, with PHP, as they go on to describe. PHP allows access to PHP wrappers in URI form using many protocols. They list a few: file get contents, require once, file copy. The wrapper supports a number of filters which can be run against a given resource, so the results are returned in the function call. In the above case, we use the convert base 64 encode filter on the target file we want to read. So what this does is, as long as the attacker uses base 64 to decode output they receive from the application, they can grab any public files of any file type, which doesn't directly cause harm to the application on the back end, but it does give the hacker more information about the application. Could potentially leak data source files, which could lead to a more harmful attack like a SQL injection. So it's really important to be aware of that. Bypassing access controls is another thing that external entity injection can do. Access controls can be dictated in any number of ways. Since XXE attacks are mounted on the back end to a web application, it will not be possible for the current user's session to take any effect. But an attacker can still bypass back-end access controls by virtue of making requests from the local server. They give an example of a PHP snippet that might bypass these access controls. The snippet of PHP and countless others like it are used to restrict access to certain PHP files to a local server, i.e. localhost. However, an XXE vulnerability in the front end of the application actually gives the attacker the exact credentials needed to bypass this control, since all HTTP requests by the XML parser will be made from localhost. They go on to mention log viewing. Now, if log viewing were restricted to local requests, then the attacker may be able to successfully grab logs anyways. The same thinking applies to maintenance or administration interfaces whose access is restricted in this fashion. Now, log files are really important because they might contain tons of information about an application, backend service methods that are not supposed to be public, data source information, user data. So these are things that should be encoded anyways, and can be kept secure that way. But there are other ways which we will get into soon. I mentioned denial of service attacks. I won't get into them too deeply as they don't either. But essentially, denial of service attacks can occur anytime arbitrary HTTP requests are made, and these can be done through XXE injection, and that can exhaust the server's resources under the right conditions. So it's good to be aware of this, and it just builds the case for defending against XXE injection. So they go on to defense against XML external entity injection. Considering the very attractive benefits of the attack, it might be surprising that the defense is extremely simple. Since DOM, Simple XML, and XML Reader all rely on libxm12, we can simply use the libxml disable entity loader function to disable external entity resolution. This does not disable custom entities which are predefined with the doc type, since they do not make use of external resources which require a file system operation or HTTP request. So what this does is it allows you to still use custom XML references, so long as those are not making an external call. You need to do this anywhere where XML is being loaded from a string, a file, or a remote URI. They go on to state that the best defense is where external entities are not required, to simply just disable external resource loading altogether. This is preferable, but it isn't always possible, because we do need to use XML and as well as custom XML within our XML data transfer applications. In the event that the above behavior switching is not possible, you can do a manual check for XML documents that are declaring doc types. If it does and external entities are not allowed, you can just get rid of the XML document. And this will definitely deny any untrusted XML from accessing a vulnerable parser. If you log attacks, this will be a necessary step, since there will be no other errors or exceptions to catch the attempt. So you want to make sure that you state that you ran into this issue and threw away the file. Now, this is far from ideal, as they mentioned. It's also worth considering it's preferable to discard data that you think is suspicious without performing any necessary operations on it. Why would you continue to engage something that you think is dangerous? Therefore, merging the two steps above has the benefit of proactively ignoring obviously bad data, while still protecting you in the event that discarding data is beyond your control, like in a when you're using a third-party library. Discarding the data becomes far more compelling for another reason stated earlier. libxml disable entity loader doesn't disable custom entities entirely, only those with external references. This can enable another attack called XML entity expansion, which I will not cover here, but phpsecurity.com phpsecurity.readthedocs.io does go on to explain. So just to recap quickly about XXE injection, it's similar to SQL injection. It's not as widely known or defended against, because typically less damage can be done directly with an XXE attack, but DOS attacks are very serious, and data leaks are very serious as well, so you should still know about it, and the defense is so simple to implement, there's really no excuse once you know about it. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you guys soon.